So I want to welcome everybody and thank you for joining our first ever annual meeting via Zoom. And I hope it's our last. I always look forward to meeting members in person and sharing land trust stories at this event, but obviously that's not happening in this very challenging time. But I can assure you that staff and the board have not slowed their efforts one bit. Thanks to you, our supporters, we're still making great progress with our stated mission of conserving forever the land and waters of the Finger Lakes region. Membership is up and the trail usage on our 36 preserves open to the public is very high. I've hiked our property several days a week for the last 3 months and invariably meet others on the trail, often with their kids who aren't in school or are waiting for their places of employment to reopen. Universally, they are appreciating our efforts. And for me personally, it reaffirms the importance of our mission. Now, I want to turn this over to our Executive Director, Andy Zepp, whom most of you know, and he's going to tell you of our progress over the past year. Andy?
Good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us. First, before getting into kind of a report on the year, I do want to note that we've had a lot of wildlife sightings lately. For those who may not have known, we've had bears seen in Ithaca and Cayuga Heights, Canandaigua, and I'm a little bit concerned about the Vincents of Skaneateles as I'm seeing bears in the Zoom here. So if anyone's up in Skaneateles, you might want to call 911 or animal control. But glad they're joining, glad you could all be with us. If you bear with me for a sec, the most exciting part of the evening is about to happen. It's me dealing with sharing screen for the first time. So just bear with me just 1 second here. All right, are people, seeing me or my screen? Hang on just 1 sec. Here we go. Oh. Bear with me just a sec. Kelly, I'm not. It disappeared. All right, here we go. Thanks for your patience on that. I want to first report that we have done far better on conservation this year than I have done with Zoom. But for starters, we protected nearly 2,000 acres across the region, bringing total protected land to 25,000 acres. But more than those numbers, I'm going to just share some of these scenes from the protected lands that gives a sense of the quality of the land we're protecting. And I'm going to start in eastern Tompkins County, just east of Ithaca, with a project that we completed just about a week after last year's annual meeting. And that was the donation of the Summerland Farm Preserve. Our latest nature preserve features beautiful, mature hardwood forests. But one of the, I think, most striking features is hilltop meadows with 30-mile views. And this is a spectacular area that is traversed by the Finger Lakes Trail. And those fields that provide the views are also home to bobolinks, a bird species of particular conservation concern that nests in that area. They have a remarkable migration. These birds spend their brief summer here, but they winter in southern South America, for example, Argentina. And we're committed to maintaining that habitat by periodic mowing, but at a timely mowing. If you mow it too early, you destroy the nests. So we're partnering with a local farmer and maintaining the views, providing habitat for the bobolinks, and looking to protect more land there. Now, to give you a sense of the context, this is a map of the hill country east of Ithaca. For those who know the area, you see State Route 79 in the middle. And Summerland Farm is not all that we're doing there. That was a gift from Ann Boyer, who donated the land, and that's located in the lower center of your screen. But if you look, the purple parcel smack in the middle of Robinson Hollow State Forest. That was 140 acres that was on the open market, and it has a significant road frontage, and there was concern about it being subdivided and the impact it would have on the adjacent public land. Fortunately, over the years, thanks to your support, we've built a revolving fund that allows us to move quickly when properties like this come on the market. So we purchase the land, we hold it today, but in the future, when state funds are available, we will convey that to the state as an addition to the forest and then roll that money over into another project. Now, if you look to the left side of the screen, you'll see some irregular green parcels, and that is our Gutchess Wetlands Preserve. And this year we added land there too, notably on Owego Creek, which is one of the premier trout streams in our area. Now, in that case, the land had actually included wetlands next to the stream that had been degraded by grazing over the years. So we partnered with the Upper Susquehanna Coalition to replant forest. And this is an area where we're doing that both for habitat protection, and in this case creation, but also to help enhance water quality. This is an area we're really looking to expand our work, both in the Finger Lakes and also the Susquehanna watershed. This was a fairly large planting. We also last year did pilot efforts at our new Owasco Bluffs Preserve on the shore of Owasco Lake, and we'll be opening that to the public later this year. And also our Bishop Preserve located near Geneva. This gives you an overview of this area. So this is our largest landscape focus area called the Emerald Necklace. And this is an effort to link 50,000 acres of existing public conservation land extending from Finger Lakes National Forest in the west to the area I just showed you east of Ithaca in the vicinity of Robinson Hollow and Shindagan Hollow State Forests. And this is an area we've been working for more than a decade. We've protected several thousand acres. We've actually created a link in the necklace between Hammond Hill and Yellow Barn State Forests. And just in the past year alone, in addition to the projects I highlighted, we also acquired parcels to add to Finger Lakes National Forest and Danby State Forest. And we also completed a conservation easement adjacent to Shindagan Hollow. This isn't just our project. We're working very closely with local governments, towns, counties, the State Department of Environmental Conservation, Finger Lakes Trail Conference, and this is now state policy in the state open space plan as one of its priority projects. Now, last year, I told you about an addition to one of the jewels in the necklace, our Lindsay Parsons Biodiversity Preserve in West Danby. And this preserve has been assembled through 13 different land projects and now spans approximately 550 acres. We acquired land about a year and a half ago that was a portion of this wetland pond, which is located right next to the West Danby Fire Station. This year, we're improving it so people of any ability have the opportunity to overlook this pond, which has an active great blue heron rookery. And this year was visited by this guy. This was a shot actually taken from that wetland about a month or two ago of a river otter. And this is a species that is found in our region, but it's uncommon. And it's a real treat to see them out in these areas. We're just finalizing the overlook, and we'll be announcing that on our website shortly, and anyone is welcome to come visit. Now, while our name is Finger Lakes, we actually do a good bit of work as well in the southern tier. And for those of you who haven't been there, I really recommend one day taking a paddle in the beautiful stretch of the Chemung River between Elmira and Corning. This is a view right off State Highway Route 352, and it is one of our focus areas where we've been trying to acquire land for ourselves. And on the right side of this, that hill is part of our Steggy Hill Preserve, our largest preserve at 800 acres. And last year, we acquired a parcel of about 100 acres in those fluted hillsides in the back of the picture called the Palisades. And then this year, we added 200 acres of meadows down on the river that we will be conveying to New York State as part of a newly established state wildlife management area. And we're continuing our work down there and looking to knit together a network of conserved lands with just this outstanding river frontage, large scale habitat that includes lots of porcupine, black bear, bobcat, full range of species, and includes partners from the state, a county park, a nature conservancy preserve, a very active town partnership. So making good progress there as well. Moving up to Skaneateles, the south end of Skaneateles Lake has been a focus area for a number of years. Skaneateles Lake is the unfiltered drinking water supply for the city of Syracuse. And we really value our partnership with the city, the county, municipalities, and of course the Skaneateles Lake Association. This past year, we did a wonderful easement on over 600 acres. You're looking at the Birdsall Farm that is located at the top of Ripley Hill, the highest point in the watershed. And we're now, we've received funding from the state to acquire an easement on the adjacent 500-acre Franklin Farm. So this is an area we're making great progress, using all the tools in the toolbox. This is very close to our Hinchcliffe Preserve and an area we're adding additional land as well. Shifting over to Seneca Lake, just a few weeks ago, we acquired another conservation easement with state support. And this is the Barber Farm, a fourth generation farm that spans more than 500 acres. What you can't see is just outside of this picture is the village of Watkins Glen. So there are a number of values of this property, but one I really appreciate is when you're in Watkins Glen, this property is about half of the scenic backdrop on the east side of town. While it is a fourth generation farm, it also includes a lot of undeveloped woodlands that border Queen Catherine Marsh and provide important buffer. So in crafting the easement, we had two goals in mind. One was to continue this farming tradition, but the other was to put in buffers for the watercourses and the wetlands to ensure both habitat and water quality. So in this case, on the 500-acre easement, about 100 acres of that is set aside for buffer purposes. Here's a view from the farm. It has beautiful views of Seneca Lake, and this is an area where we're seeing conversion of farms like this to housing where the land away from the road may not be used, but we're seeing our scenic rural roads increasingly being subdivided lined with housing. So this is a case where with state support, we were able to provide the farmer with funding to continue and invest in his land, and we'll now monitor that easement and work on water quality improvement projects. Another recent project just in the past 2 weeks, or maybe even a week ago, is out in Canandaigua. This is a project we started 10 years ago, and many of our projects sometimes go over generations. Talking to landowners about their personal and financial goals and how there might be a match with conservation. In this case, it is in the southern part of the town of Canandaigua, where at a high ridge, you have not only a landscape with very diverse wildlife habitats, including mature oak woods, meadows, and brushland, the headwaters of a significant gorge, you also have terrific views. And it's in an area where, because much of the land surrounding Canandaigua is agricultural, there's really, as the population grows, a shortage of places to go out and experience nature. So we worked with two adjacent landowners to acquire a core holding of 100 acres. And this gives you a sense of some of the views from there. On a clear day, you can see way beyond Canandaigua over to Geneva. And we're now starting the process of inventorying the property, looking at a management plan that will include maintaining these habitats, jumping back to those bobolinks at Summerlin Farm. One of the things we're seeing region-wide is lots of mowing. If you have looked anywhere in this spring season, you see how quick stuff grows, particularly trees growing in. We are guided by two particular priorities in our habitat management: old growth forest and nurturing native species in some areas, but then in others, this early successional or grassland habitat, which takes a lot of work. And that's where we're getting started. We hope to open this to the public sometime in 2021. You can see where this is located. This new preserve is in the upper left of this frame, just north of Bristol Harbor Resort, in about the midpoint of Canandaigua Lake. But I wanted to put this up here because we have a lot of ongoing efforts similar to the south end of Skinny Atlas or the Ithaca's Emerald Necklace or the Chemung River. And Bear Hill, for example, we're under contract to close on our 8th acquisition there, and that's in partnership with New York State. Similarly, down at High Tor, which is an Audubon designated important bird area, we are about to add another 120 acres to that site. And over time, respecting landowners' wishes, a lot of what we're doing is trying to channel development away from the most sensitive areas and create these networks of conserved land. So we're creating networks of land that's resilient to climate change, has multiple conservation values, and also has enough space for recreation as part of that. So hopefully in future meetings, you'll come back and each year you'll see more color on this map as we secure these different parcels. Over the ridge from Canandaigua, Honeoye Lake has one of the wildest areas near the lake, where through work in recent years, there's a wonderful network now, about 5,000 acres conserved land. You're looking at the extensive wetlands at the south end of the lake that were conserved through a partnership between the Nature Conservancy and New York State. New York State has a large wildlife management area there now. This past year, we acquired 2 additional parcels there and are working on additional conservation of just a wonderful natural area where you have steep-sided hills going down to these wetlands very close to the lakeshore. Now that's a bit looking back, and I'm pleased to say that I just provided you with the highlights because we are doing so many projects now that I'm not going to go through individually here. But I wanted to shift gears for a moment and look forward, because the project I'm most excited about is pending and will hopefully happen in the next 2 weeks. And what you're looking at is a drone's eye view of the south end of Skinny Atlas Lake. And this is an area where we've been working for years, and we're under contract to buy 75 acres of forest. And there are across our region, many, many parcels of 75 acres of forest. What makes this one so special is location, location, location. We are linking 2 existing preserves. This is all land that's highly erodible, important for the watershed. It's all within an Audubon important bird area. And when we complete this acquisition, we will own a contiguous stretch of 2¼ miles of hillside running north-south. And that does not include, just a little bit separate, another 100 acres to the north that includes 2,000 feet of lakeshore. So this really demonstrates that if we're stay focused, invest the time. I can tell you that these owners we're buying from, I think a land trust volunteer probably talked to them 30 years ago. And so what your support allows is the sustained effort to be there at the right time and to make these projects happen. This is one, we're launching a fundraising campaign. We're gonna keep this land. We're gonna provide for the stewardship. And one of the next steps will be, how do we extend our network of hiking trails from the Hinchcliffe Preserve down to High Vista? And for those of you who know Skinny Atlas, you know that we're focused next on getting down past the Glen Haven, across the valley and up into the Bear Swamp Trail Network. So both for critters and for people, we're really trying to make these networks connect. This is what it looks like right now, our region. And each of those circles you see represents a completed project of a different size, whether it's a nature preserve, a conservation easement, or a partnership project, perhaps involving a nonprofit or a government conservation agency. And over time, we see, each year we're doing probably 15 projects a year, and that is accelerating. At the same time, we haven't protected the land if we don't take care of it. So as we've been doing this, we've been also growing our stewardship capabilities. And that means that we're able to manage more habitat to benefit wildlife species like the bobolink. but also that as we invite the public on the land, as Dave mentioned, we've seen tremendous usage during the pandemic and in the desire for the public to be out in these trails. So we're investing in places like Lick Brook near Ithaca, where we made substantial improvements to improve trail safety, as well as reduce erosion. We also want to educate people about these sites. This is on Wesley Hill in Ontario County, where we're putting in a new professionally designed interpretive kiosk. We also made improvements to the parking lot where it was a little sketchy when you got out on the road there. And we're very much committed to keeping up with our responsibilities. And this is really a priority for investment in the organization, both in terms of staff and volunteers, because we couldn't do it without both. And I want to talk first about volunteers, because we have volunteers involved in every aspect of our work. And last year, it was our 30th anniversary. We had field trips throughout the region. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, we had to curtail those field trips, but I want to reference that the way we do our Talks and Treks program, that in a typical year, there are 15 different guided hikes made available to the public at no cost that introduces hundreds of people to our natural resources at our special places for the first time, all done by volunteers. Stewardship of our preserves, the staff is absolutely vital, but we couldn't possibly take care of all these lands in 12 counties without our robust volunteer network. And each year, we recognize one volunteer as our Volunteer of the Year. And I'm delighted that this year, we're able to honor Jacqueline Stu Miller, who is really been deserving of this award for quite some time, but I love the timing for this year as we're on Zoom. And the reason I say that is because Jacqueline has a strong connection to the Finger Lakes. She started as a volunteer with the Land Trust in 2005, and she received her PhD at Cornell in English literature and was teaching there. And what she has done is many of the closer look features you see in the back of our newsletter that dive deep into a species or a natural process. But Jacqueline has not lived in Ithaca for many years, and she's been doing this from either the Bay Area in California or more recently at the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee, where she is a professor. And so in these Zoom times, I thought it would just such a wonderful time to celebrate her work and to give you a sense of the range of articles she's written. I just picked up a stack of newsletters in my office and came across at the top, The American Chestnut, Bear Hibernation, Snowy Owls, and Wild Parsnip. So we have challenged her by picking out all these different topics, and it's been a wonderful match because her research focuses on the ways humans and animals interacted in the Middle Ages. And most of these stories have those elements of investigating a natural process. These frequently involve tracking down experts who are sometimes hard to convince to talk. And usually there is there's a human aspect to it. So we're thrilled. She is a fantastic writer. We're thrilled because we don't have to edit her. So it just comes in and we print it, which makes it even better. And Jacqueline, I just want to thank you so much. And a token, just a modest token of our appreciation will be soon FedExing its way to you. And just thank you and all the other volunteers. At this point, I am going to introduce another volunteer, and that is our treasurer, Jan Sawinski, who for 5 years has guided the organization and really invested a lot of himself as we looked at volatile markets and investment options, as well as the day-to-day oversight of our operations and our annual support. For those who don't know Jan, Jan also is a conservation donor with his wife Sue, and they live on a beautiful 400-acre farm on Ithaca's West Hill. Jan is going to provide an overview, a brief report the financial side of things for the organization. And before I do that though, I do want to just recognize all the volunteers who make our work possible, and also an absolutely terrific staff. I want to let you know that we have the best staff that any land trust has got. So thank you all, and here's to y'all.
Thank you, Andy. Am I on, Kelly? I'm on, okay. So I'd like to add my welcome to our members for our Finger Lakes Land Trust annual meeting. I'm going to give you the financial report, and just so you are oriented time-wise, our fiscal year is July 1st of 2019 until June 30th of this year. So that's the period of time that I'll be talking about. I'm going to present the report in two parts. The first is how did we do versus our operating budget? And secondly, we'll talk about how our investment portfolios performed during this time period. On the operations side, as of last Friday, so we're not quite to the end of the fiscal year yet, but as of last Friday, our revenue was essentially on our total year budget. And so my guess is when we close the fiscal year, our revenue will be about 1% above our fiscal year budget. And this is due in large part to our membership and annual appeal contributions being 6.4% over budget. And that's everybody that I'm looking at right now. And so thank you very much to our members. I salute you and thank you for your continued support of the Finger Lakes Land Trust. On the expense side, we're under control. We're going to end the year under budget on expenses. And so that means with revenue slightly ahead and expenses below budget, we will end the fiscal year with a slight surplus in our operating account. Switching now to how our investments have done. I'm reminded in these times of the Chinese proverb, which is, may you live in interesting times. And all of you, when you look at your personal investment portfolio, you have to agree that the last 12 months have been particularly interesting and then some. So on the investment side, we've divided our investments into three buckets, and let me talk about each of them individually. The first bucket is our checking accounts, which are invested with 4 regional banks. And the purpose of this bucket is to pay our weekly bills. So for example, our payroll, our travel expenses, communications bills, etc. The second bucket is used to fund land acquisitions. And historically, we've invested in certificates of deposit. But about 2 years ago, we switched to a portfolio of treasury bills because we could get higher returns than we could with certificates of deposits. And also, if we need to withdraw funds before maturity to purchase land, we don't suffer a penalty like you do when you have a certificate of deposit that you withdraw before maturity. We've kept the portfolio to 2 years or less in terms of maturities. And what this does is it insulates us almost entirely from the impact of rate changes. This has turned out to be a good move, particularly with what the Fed has done recently. We currently have $4.1 million in this second bucket. And this has been a blessing in disguise because you all know what's happened in the equity markets and the stock market, and we've avoided all that. So this has worked out really well. A year ago, our interest, we were getting 2 to 2.3% interest. And now that the Fed has lowered interest rates to essentially zero, one of the challenges we have going forward is to try to find additional investments which have low risk, very, very low risk, because we don't want to take chances with this portfolio, and yet can give us higher interest rates than currently treasuries do. The third bucket is our endowment fund, which is for stewardship of our easements and the nature preserves that Andy talked about. This bucket is currently invested in 2 mutual funds. The first one is the TIF Multi-Asset Fund. It's a balanced fund, roughly 65% equities, 35% hedge funds and fixed income. Our current balance is $4 million. And if you look at performance, if you look at this calendar year, so January 1st until now in 2020, this fund is down 2.67%. But if you look at our fiscal year, so from July 1st of last year until now, this fund is ahead a little bit more than 7%. The second fund we have is Parnassus Mid Cap Growth Fund. This is essentially 100% equities. Current balance is about $2 million year to date. So I'm talking about January 1st to now. This fund has lost 4.5%. But if you look at our fiscal year to date, we're ahead almost 12%. And what we do with these endowment funds is our current policy is to withdraw 4% from these funds each year. And that provides the funds for the stewardship operations that you saw in action in Andy's slides. I should mention we also have a legal defense fund, which is invested with TIF. The current balance is $268,000. And the purpose of this is, number one, it's a requirement for accreditation of our land trust. And secondly, it gives us a reserve in case we get into legal action. So as the Chinese say, this year's been an interesting time given the market volatility. But if you look at the fiscal year and even look at the first 6 months of 2020, I think our investments have done pretty well. And I'm happy to say that we will be ending the fiscal year with the Finger Lakes Land Trust in a pretty strong financial position. And with that, Dave, I would move for the membership to accept the financial report for the year 2019-2020.
And I second that. Now I want to ask all the membership to please vote to accept Jan's report. You'll have the opportunity, it should be up on your screen now. I'll give you a little bit of time to hit yes or one of the other choices if you feel you need to.
Looks like everybody's accepted.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, Jan, for that very concise report. I think we feel very fortunate as an organization to be in the position that we're in. And I want to personally thank Jan and his finance committee for making that happen. Now it is time to present the slate of board candidates. We have one person, Kevin Parker of Penfield, who will be joining the board. And we have 4 people, Sean O'Keefe from Skaneateles, Marjorie Ronaldo Leaf of Ithaca, Fred Van Sickle of Ithaca, Myra Schulman of Ithaca, and Patty Weiss of Skaneateles, who we are endorsing for another term. And if you voted from the ballot that was provided in the newsletter, thank you very much. Those of you that didn't will have the opportunity right now to vote on the screen. Keep in mind, you do need to be a member of the Land Trust to vote.
All right. Looks like it
All
passed.
set? Good. Well, thank you, everybody. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. want to thank you for your confidence and for your support. Our efforts will impact generations from now. So in conclusion, we have a short couple of minute video to share with you. If you happen to have a weak internet link connection, you will be provided with a link at the beginning of next week. This is an opportunity to see the highlights of some of the conservation work that your support enables us to do. And so once again, I want to thank you. I just can't enough. If you have any questions after tonight's meeting, you can do that. You can get them to the Land Trust office at info@fllt.org. That's info@fllt.org. So I hope to see some of you on the trails. Everybody stay healthy. Thank you so much for being part of our organization. Enjoy the video. Good night from me.
Thanks, everybody. Okay, now I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully, hopefully the internet and the Zoom gods are in our favor tonight.
Cool video.
See that. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks everyone for joining us. And I just want to mention, if anyone has follow-up questions tomorrow, I will be in the office, happy to talk with anyone. And the number there is 607-275-9487. So again, thanks so much for your support, and we hope to see you out at the preserves.
Thanks.